Hi, I'm Ali Patterson. For the next 3 episodes of Future Banking, we're looking at what it would take to make the ultimate contact centre in financial services. We're looking at everything from hardware to software across asset management, insurance and retail banking. We're also going to be looking at offshoring with a particular focus on South Africa. And in this digital age, it's not just about telephone conversations. Contact centres now have to embrace the multi-channel and communicate with their customers by channels such as social. We also look at how best to use all this data that firms now have on their customers and how that can lead to the ultimate contact centre. So to start, we're going to speak with Raj Dattani at Top 50 Companies for Customer Service.
What really, in your sort of personal opinion, is the absolute core of running a cost-effective contact centre that can still deliver an absolutely superb customer experience?
I think the core is hiring the right people. I think it's ensuring you have the right people coming in to do the right job to start off with, i.e. the right skill sets. What we're seeing more and more traditionally is people are hired off a CV, they have the relevant interview, and then they go in and do the job. In reality, they're facing various scenarios that they may not have faced outside in the real life, or they may not have experienced personally. So I think it's really core to any contact centre to getting the right people in that have the right skill set, whether it's looking at emails or answering phones or social media, to ensure they have the right skill set in order for them to be able to respond to customers in an efficient manner, but more importantly in a personalised manner. So I think it's that, but then also I think it's right having the right technology in place. It's all well having the right people there, but if you don't have the right technology in order for you to be able to service your clients or your customers, I think can have a real burden on the overall customer experience. So I think it's following on from having the right people. I think it's about having a right balance of a reasonable CRM system that provides an effective tool for the right people to be able to provide the great customer service. We're seeing more and more technology coming into play to assist agents in providing a more fantastic customer experience, but also reduce the effort for a customer. So I think those are fantastic tools. They must work for the business, but also you need to have the right people to be able to use those. I think people can always be trained, but I think to have the right skill set initially will always be a good step in order for any great customer or contact centre.
So what is actually holding banks back from unifying their communications together?
It's been a question of technology for the most part. The natural tendency is for people to build up silos of technology expertise and competency, and for each channel that they would be dealing with customers. And as those channels grow, as you optimize and take that channel-centric approach, you have difficulty providing unified messages to customers from one channel to the next. What we've found is a great approach for that is taking a case management approach to inquiries that come in for every issue that a customer has, whether that's a consumer or other entity. So it's important for institutions to treat each inquiry as a case and do case management so that the information, the data taken in at each stage of the customer journey is associated with that inquiry, and that way as a customer moves from channel to channel, they do not have to start over from one channel to the next. And that has the effect of unifying the communications and making sure that everyone gets the same answer no matter which channel they come in, no matter whether they come in now or a week later, that there's consistency across all channels. And once again, the way to do that is to design everything around customer-centric processes rather than channel-centric processes, so that you're always coming to the same place to find out what's the next action, what's the next thing that I must do to satisfy this customer's request, what other sub-cases or other back office procedures do I have to resolve before I can say that this has been completed and to the satisfaction of this customer. It's important to maintain customer continuity, like we're seeing at Aegon.
So I've come to Edinburgh to speak with Nicola Hazard at Aegon about the ultimate contact centre.
Across every sector that I've worked in, and I've worked in a lot of sectors, I've applied 4 core principles. The first one is understanding your customers' needs, their expectations, but also what type of service are you aspiring to deliver. Services and service experiences don't happen by accident. They need to be designed. You need to understand what emotions you're trying to elicit in your customer through every step and what customers' emotions will be in that step. And then designing your processes and your people and your information that you provide those customers as they go through that. So delivering a compelling experience is designed. It doesn't just happen. And that's one of your first core principles. The second core principle for me is about getting the right people. It doesn't matter if you have great processes. It doesn't matter if they have great systems. The person who is having that conversation with that customer is who counts. And you have to have the right people with both the right attitude and the right capability, or it doesn't matter what you've designed, it's not going to get delivered. And the third principle for me is about once you have those people, give them the tools to do their job. All of us at some point in time will have phoned a contact centre and got frustrated because you get through to someone who's really nice, really friendly, but can't answer the questions. So you have to make sure that you give your people the tools to do their job, because otherwise not only is the customer frustrated, but so is the member of staff as well. So it's definitely about giving the right tools. And then the final principle is just never stop. I have worked in contact centres for the last 20 years. I just can't recognise the contact centre that I worked in 20 years ago to what it is today. Contact centres are ever evolving, ever changing. It's about listening to your customers, listening to your people, listening to your failure demand, and just never ever stopping. And for me, they're the 4 core principles of delivering a cost-effective contact centre whilst delivering the service experience that you're aspiring to.
What Nicola said about don't stop listening to your customers brought me to social media. So I've come to speak with Josh March at Conversocial about the use of social media within the ultimate contact centre.
So we work with a number of banks in the UK and Europe and globally, really focused on helping them deliver customer service in the most efficient, regulatory compliant way through social media as possible. And our core belief is that you really need to integrate social deeply into the contact centre, into your customer service processes, into customer service technology. From the perspective of a bank, they've got now an increasing number of customers tweeting problems at them, writing on their Facebook page, interacting with them through these different social media platforms, and often have teams of agents trying to deal with that in the best way. So there's a number of ways that we help that. First of all, we give them a platform that allows a large team of agents to deal with very large volumes of content in a very efficient way. We have prioritization that helps identify the customer service issues from the general chit-chat and noise on social, so that they can respond to those real issues as quickly as possible. We provide the workflow so you can have these teams of agents and managers collaborating, getting the right content to the right team and the right person. We provide all the performance management tools so that a manager can understand, well, how quickly are we responding to customers? What are our different agents doing in real time right now? How efficient are they? How does that efficiency of how they deal with a refund issue or a technical question compare on social versus email versus chat? But another kind of some core challenges for banks, especially in financial services companies, is around regulatory compliance and personal information. And there is this big challenge that banks face, especially versus a lot of other kind of companies like retailers and that kind of thing, where they're unable to ask for personal information over a non-secure channel, even privately over Twitter and Facebook. And so they have to move some of that information, that communication off social and into phone or secure web forms and that kind of thing. And that's definitely a big challenge. And so another major part of what we do is we have a full API platform, and we will actually integrate Conversocial with our customers' CRM systems and other customer service systems so that you can share the data between them and get towards a single view of the customer. So someone tweeting at you, matching up the conversation you're having with a customer over Twitter with the customer record you have and the secure chat you've had in your main customer service system.
Over at Nationwide, we speak with Tony Prestage again about the evolution of contact centres.
So in many ways, alongside the branch environment, the contact centres are the environment in the organisation I'm most excited about. So they have traditionally been about voice conversations. Over the next 3 to 5 years, I have a clear expectation that what we're going to see is contact centres will become a quarter about voice, so traditional services, a quarter about social interaction, and I'll come back to that, a quarter about web chat in terms of immediate conversation, and then about a quarter which is about face-to-face relationships. So how do you bring the person through video to the customer rather than just through voice? And you think about what that means. It means you have to redesign your processes end to end. You need to redesign your technology. But the great thing is you make work more enjoyable, you make jobs more interesting, you make promotional and development opportunities increasingly more accessible to people. And so what we've been doing in Nationwide is starting first of all in developing our social media channel. So we're the first banking institution in the UK to launch a 24/7 social media channel in terms of Twitter, and it's growing at a rate that we could have only imagined. We're adding to that, as we've already discussed, video-based relationship technology so that we add into that Nationwide now. We will then start to look at, and we're investing now, on how we bring voice recognition through the identification process into the contact centre environment, and then we will workflow that across the entire operation. All of that's great, but you're completely screwed if you don't understand the demand that you're resourcing against, if you don't understand the skill you need in the organisation to respond to that demand, if you don't understand the processes you're operating, and you don't create a culture that means that people want to do the right thing. So what we're attempting to do is operationally transform, which is really important, but environmentally transform as well, so that actually our colleagues, and we've got over 2,000 people in our contact centres, feel as though their careers can grow in that environment, feel as though Nationwide is a business that they themselves can grow in, and feel as though work becomes increasingly more challenging, more demanding, more interesting, so that the skills grow at the same time. It's a massive win-win because we end up with more efficiency for ourselves as an organisation, we end up with better service outcomes, significantly better service outcomes for our members because of range of choice but also access to expertise. But really vitally, colleagues across our contact centre environment feel motivated to do the right thing each day.
So how else will the contact centre evolve?
Well, certainly in the short term, there's going to be a renewed focus on getting that omni-channel experience across all the channels. Of course, the tricky thing is we don't know what new channels are going to be around in the next few years. Certainly no one expected Twitter to be quite as strong as it is right now, or Facebook, as they did 5 or 10 years ago. And with the advent of wearables, the Internet of Things, where devices are going to be reaching out on your behalf to somehow contact a contact center for service, who knows what our channels are going to be. So as financial institutions shore up their current capabilities, they'll be able to respond to those new channels as they appear. I think the other area that will become more and more prevalent is the use of, people use the term big data, but really just all the information that you have about a customer to customize that experience as much as possible by giving them that bespoke experience so that it feels like you're the bank on the corner that is going to understand them and know what their personal information is, just enough not to be creepy, not to be scary, but enough that you can recommend the right offer or the right action to them. That's becoming increasingly necessary in financial institutions where they're trying to maximize their customer lifetime value by providing additional services. Certainly customers are more sticky, more loyal if they take on additional services from a given financial institution. So what we're finding is that if you can get out of the mode of just segmenting customers into broad swaths of 18 to 25 and 31 to 40 and start talking about a segment of one, taking all the information about a customer and narrowing it down to this is the next best offer, the next best action, the next thing that we should do to keep this customer happy. And then beyond just using the existing rules you have to respond to that data, but being predictive, using predictive analytics to say, well, most people in this situation really do want this, really do want to buy a house and are looking for a homeowner loan. Let's proactively recommend that to this customer, show them our current rates or show them our refinance rates so that we can anticipate their needs rather than waiting to react to whatever problems that they have. That sort of predictive behavior, that sort of getting ahead of what the customer needs before they know they need it, is really going to further solidify the relationship that financial institutions have with their customers. And again, that's not just, we tend to use consumer examples as an example, but it's not just retail banks. It's for every financial institution because at its core is that relationship and that level of trust that they have to build with their clients in order to continue to do business with them.
So I've come to speak with David Nichols at Endsleigh Insurance to talk about the contact centre and the customer experience. Can you tell us a little bit about Endsleigh's approach to utilising channels such as social media
both from an interaction level, but also from a monitoring perspective?
Sure. I mean, it's a fundamental channel for us. A good proportion of our client base is the student market, and social media is very much present in that particular marketplace. We've got a number of routes into that. First of all, we run our own sort of social hub called the Hub, and it's in place to provide students with information that's relevant to their needs and the questions that they may have in the financial services space, or in fact broader. And that's really well connected into Facebook and Twitter. So that's one avenue that we use. We also do a lot around search engine optimization to understand capability in that space. But in addition, we track feedback through social media as well. Twitter is a great example of that. I suppose understanding the student segment, typically this could well be their first financial services product purchase, and you may traditionally think a digital savvy bunch of customers only want to service on the internet, but increasingly we see they're a core part of our customer base that needs more support during that journey. So they classically like the use of web chat to support the online purchasing, and the use of our perhaps more traditional contact centre contact routes through the telephone.
There is starting to be a slight change in mentality around customer service, which I think social is helping to push along, which is that it's not just about getting the lowest possible cost anymore. Service is becoming so fundamental to your brand, to retention of customers, now starting to impact you publicly because everyone can see the service you're delivering on Twitter and Facebook. And so the level of service you're delivering and the quality of service is becoming much more important to companies than almost ever before. And also the data and the insights from these customer service conversations is also becoming more and more important. Whereas before often it was kind of hidden away slightly and no one really no one cared too much. Now that executives are seeing this feedback on the Facebook page and seeing it in Twitter, and journalists are looking at it, people are starting to pay a lot more attention to it. So the quality of service and the data that's coming out of it is becoming more and more valuable. But obviously at the same time, customer service is a massive cost centre. And I think it's just a general strategic initiative for everyone to try and reduce those costs as much as possible through encouraging more use of self-service, peer-to-peer if you can, and increasing the efficiency of customer service conversations. The biggest cost for call centres is still phone calls. It's still the majority of customer service, and often it takes a long time to deal with customers and speak to them, and the agent can't do anything else whilst that's happening. Something that we think is very important, especially with social, is that you absolutely need to be delivering the best level of service, and how you do that is to have great customer service agents who are well trained and who are trusted to be able to actually resolve someone's issue. And you don't have to pass people around to multiple people, they can just sort it out.
Can you give us an example of when Aegon has really excelled at customer service?
I wish I could sit and talk to you about how we've improved NPS scores or what our customers are saying, but the best example I can give of when we've excelled in customer service is the conversations that we have with our customers on a daily basis. One particular example I can think of, we were listening to some calls, and we listened to one of our advisors speaking to a customer who'd recently lost her husband. And when she listened to that call, the Pega system they use allows them to understand who the customer is and where they are in that claim journey. So from the moment she handled that call and answered that call, she understood who that customer was and that they'd recently lost a loved one. And she dealt with that call with such care and such empathy, and had a real conversation with that customer. She wasn't watching to see if there was calls in the queue. She wasn't trying to understand how quickly I need to get through this call. And she handled that call in a way that I would have liked to have been handled. And by the time we all stopped listening to it, there was a few of us that were really quite close to tears having listened to the call. But the great thing about it was she didn't do it because it was a script. She didn't do it because I said at this point say sorry, or at this point demonstrate empathy. She did it because it was the most natural thing in the world for her to do. And that's when I think you've got your recruitment strategy right and you've got the right people dealing with your customers. There's been a lot of trial and error, both in terms of our recruitment and our training and our incentivisation and our motivation. But for me, there's always a direct correlation between staff engagement and customer satisfaction, and we really focus on that every day, day in, day out. And that's how I know if I go downstairs and listen to calls, I know day in, day out, my staff are having great conversations with my customers.
We're seeing a shift in the fact that a lot of financial service industries are now using home workers, so they're reducing the amount of staff within the actual buildings, but providing an effective and great customer experience through people across the UK. We will be seeing a shift in the whole social media aspect. We're going to see more and more of these channels emerging. But also I think we're seeing a shift in people with more and more emphasis around the types of people employed by banks, but also the types of customers that they're receiving. Increases the demand on customer effectiveness, but also customer experience and the quality of service.
On part 2 of the Ultimate Contact Centre, we fly out to South Africa to look at the future of telephone and digital offshoring. We also speak with Avaya about the connected customer and with Citi about outsourcing.